In 1853, right after the famine, the British government surveyed County Waterford. This was part of a project to survey the entire island of Ireland, mapping every parcel of land and recording the owner of the land and who leased and subleased. This was done for tax purposes, as the value of each parcel of land was assessed and a tax was levied on the tenants. This survey came to be known as Griffith's Valuation, after Richard Griffith, who ran the valuation office. It provides an important record of the population and where people lived, especially crucial since census records from between the famine and 1901 were destroyed in the Civil War. Griffith's valuation is organized down to the townland, which can range from 10 to 600 acres, but is usually about 300 acres. If you can find a record for an ancestor living in Ireland that names the townland where the family would have been living at the time of Griffith's valuation, you can then find the land that he lived on. But this is not easy. You are often lucky merely to know the county. Finding a parish within a county is sometimes possible, but that usually won't help you because there will usually be more than one person with the name you're looking for within a parish. But if you can find a record with the townland, then you can determine the exact plot of land that your ancestor lived on. In Pierce's case, I found a court record from 1853, which was the exact year that County Waterford was surveyed, which said that Pierce then lived in Carrickaverahain. And here you see that Carrickaverahain is very small, only 214 acres. You gotta love Irish place names. I think the name Carrickaverahain is bigger than the townland. In any case, one of the residents is Philip Flahavan, who we can then presume is Pierce's father, and we know that Pierce named one of his sons Philip, so it all makes sense. So note here that Philip leases plots 9 and 10, 24 acres of land, 3 acres of a lake, and he pays £10 15 shillings in tax each year, which looks to be just about average for this townland. So now what researchers have done in the past few years is they've taken the survey maps from Griffith's valuation and they've overlaid them onto Google Earth. So what you're looking at here is a bird's eye or maybe a plane's eye view of this survey of Ireland. And as you zoom in, you can see the townland of Carrickaverahain. And if we keep zooming in some more, you can see plot number 9, Pierce's father's plot, and also plot number 10, which is part of a lake. And you can see the indications of buildings. And then if you slide the slider bar in the top right corner from the historical, which is overlaid onto the current Google Earth, you'll see the historical map fading away, and you can see that much is still the same. The rural parts of Ireland really have not changed much in the last 160 years. And then you pull the historical map off completely, and you can see what the property looks like now. And then if you pull up another browser and find this piece of the map on Google Earth, then you can take the guy here and put him down on the street. Now you have to do this in a separate browser. They haven't figured out yet how to put the street guy onto Google Earth with the historical map. And unfortunately, the street view doesn't include this east-west street that runs right past the house. But if you take the guy and put him down on the street, this is what you will see. And if you go there, and I've included the Google Earth coordinates here, you can walk down this little road and check out the property where your great-great-great-grandfather Philip farmed. And who knows, some of the old buildings might still be there, or maybe at least an old foundation or two. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if there are still Flahavans or Flahavans living there. There was a thread on a genealogy network several years ago that mentioned that there were still Flahavans or Flahavans living in Carrickaverahain. If there are, they would probably be your 4th or 5th cousins. And by the way, you might not find Carrickaverahain on a modern map. Look for Carrickbregan. And if you do go there, I want you to walk up the road just a tiny bit because there are some old buildings which would have belonged to one of Pierce and Philip's neighbors. And this roof would have been made of thatch back in the 1800s. And here's the back of that building. So Griffith's valuation map is from 1853. It's likely that Pierce got married around 1856 when he was about 30 years old. This is relatively old for marriage, but the famine delayed many marriages while people were focusing on mere survival. So, who did Pierce marry? Her name was Mary Murray, John and his sister's great great grandmother, and she lived about 2 miles away in the nearby townland of Munmahogue. Her father's name was, oddly enough, also Pierce, which is pretty strange since Pierce was not a common name. It kind of makes me wonder if they might have been distantly related in some way. But in any case, we'll now quickly do the same thing for her family. Here we see that Pierce Murray leases plot number 2 on the map of Munmahogue, and he farms 13 acres of land and pays £11 15 shillings in taxes. And here that is on the map. And now you pull the historical map away for the current view of the property. And now we'll get the street view. And there are the Google Earth coordinates. And here you can see where they both lived on the same map. We know that Pierce and Mary had at least 4 children, probably several more than that. The ones we know about, Philip, John and his sister's great-grandfather, Catherine, Michael, and Margaret, all emigrated to Boston in the 1880s. They were part of one of the many post-famine waves of emigration that I spoke of before. Here is a picture of the ship that I believe Philip sailed on to get to America. It was called the City of Chester, and it arrived in May of 1880. And here is his ship passenger record. But in any case, back to Pierce and Ireland. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about what Pierce and his family might have been like if you got to know him. Of course, we'll never know, but it seems to me that he and the entire Flahavan clan were a fairly colorful bunch. I think they would have been well known to the local authorities. And the reason I say that is because I found numerous instances of Pierce and his father Philip, and other family members as well, being called before the petty sessions courts. The petty sessions were the lowest courts in 19th century Ireland. They covered civil matters as well as criminal. Anyone could end up before the magistrate in the petty sessions. On a typical day, the court might hear dozens of cases, and the courtroom would be hot, crowded, and loud. Even the legal professionals complained about the conditions in the courtrooms. The petty sessions were aptly named, dealing with the minor disputes and misdemeanors that make up ordinary human life. The petty sessions were presided over by a magistrate, a local landowner, usually a member of the Protestant upper class. We'll just take a look at some of these records from the Petty Sessions Court. This one's from 1853. This is Pierce. This is the record that initially placed him in Carrick of Arrahane. Here he is suing, he's the complainant suing a employer for unpaid wages, 13 shillings and 5 pence, and apparently the defendant did not appear, so presumably he was awarded that. This second one is Philip, his father, in 1853. He is the defendant, and he's being accused of allowing 15 geese to trespass on his neighbor's property, and he is ordered to pay 2 shillings 6 pence to the complainant and 1 shilling in court costs. This third one is also Philip. This is, I view it as the countersuit to the earlier one. He is suing his neighbor for allowing 9 turkeys to trespass into his cabbage garden, and the defendant is ordered to pay 1 shilling 6 pence to the complainant and an additional 1 shilling 6 pence in court costs. This next one is Pierce. He's the defendant. This is 1864, and he's being ordered to pay a debt. And you'll notice the record says Munmahogue. It's clear that after Pierce and Mary Murray got married. They lived in Munmahogue, which is where she was from, presumably in her father's house. This next one is Pierce. He's the defendant, and this is 1877, and he is being fined for having an unlicensed dog. This next one is also 1877, Pierce, the defendant, and he's being accused of allowing a pig to trespass on his neighbor's property. This one is, again, Pierce is the defendant, 1877, and the complainant is complaining of the trespass of a boar and 2 goats onto his potatoes. This next one is also Pierce. He's the defendant, 1883, and he's being accused of allowing the trespass of 2 goats and 1 ass onto his neighbor's property, ordered to pay 6 pence and 1 shilling costs. Okay, this next one is Philip, Pierce's father, 1883. He's the defendant, and he's being ordered to pay a debt of some kind. Okay, this one is Pierce. This is 1884, and he's being accused of being drunk in a public place at Tramore, and he's fined 2 shillings 6 pence and an additional 1 shilling in court costs. Okay, this one again, it's Pierce, 1884, and he's being fined for having an unlicensed dog, fined 2 shillings 6 pence plus 1 shilling court costs, and is ordered to get the dog licensed. Okay, this one is again Pierce, 1884, and he's being accused of being drunk on the public street, and this time, they went easy on him, and they just discharged him with a caution. Okay, and this last one is 1890, and it's Pierce again. He's the defendant, and he's being charged with leaving employment before a job was done, and apparently the parties settled this case. What we're looking at here is the census record from 1901 for Pierce. He's Pierce Flahavan. They shifted over to the Flahavan spelling and pronunciation at the turn of the century in Ireland as well as in America. He is listed as the head of the family. He's Roman Catholic. The no under education indicates that he is unable to read or write. He is 74 years old, roughly. Male. He's a laborer. He's married, although I actually believe he was widowed by now. Listed as married, you would think there would be a wife listed as well. He was born in County Waterford, and he speaks both Irish and English. Now, I looked for a death record for Mary for a very long time, and the problem is there were 2 Mary Flahavans of roughly the same age living in that part of the county, and there's only 1 death record. And this was during the time when the state was keeping death records, so I'm not sure why only 1 was filed for 2 Mary Flahavans. So, in any case, the record that I do have indicates that this Mary Flahavan did die in a lunatic asylum at the age of 50 in 1889, which is about right for your Mary Flahavan, but again, I can't tell because it's also about right for the other Mary Flahavan, so I don't know if it's her or not. In any case, we also have a death record for Pierce, and we see here he died in the 29th of November in Tramore, and he was now listed as a widower, 80 years old, and he died of senectus, which is another way of saying he died of old age. And Mary Foley is listed as the person present at death, and I believe Mary Foley was probably the married name of a daughter who stayed behind and did not emigrate along with her siblings. So that is what we know about Pierce Flahavan. And thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, you can contact me at janet@yourfamilyhistoryproject.com, and you can check out my website as well, www.yourfamilyhistoryproject.com. Thank you.